Okay, let's unpack this. Here's a kind of brutal truth about startups, maybe one that's a bit painful if you've ever poured your heart and soul into an idea. Many, and I really mean many, fail. Not because the founders weren't smart or didn't work incredibly hard.
Right. Not because they didn't care.
No, they fail because they end up building something nobody truly needs. It might be clever, could use amazing tech, but if it doesn't solve a real pressing problem, it's basically dead on arrival.
Ah,
So that's why today we're doing a deep dive into Product Market Fit PMF. It's not just some buzzword. It's the absolute make-or-break metric for any new venture.
exactly. And what we're trying to do here is give you sort of an essential shortcut to understanding what PMF really is, why it's so incredibly hard to find, and maybe most importantly, how you actually get there. Our thinking today is pulled heavily from Tanguy Desserman's really sharp article, Why Finding Product Market Fit is So Hard. So, our mission for you, listening, is to get past the jargon and give you practical, actionable ways forward. Think of it like a map, maybe, to make sure your next big idea is a true must-have, not just another nice to have.
Okay, so if it's that critical, what actually is product market fit? Like at its core? Well, simply put, it's that point where customers genuinely value what you're offering.
Hmm.
And crucially, they keep coming back for more. It's the huge difference between a nice to have and a must have. And a product becomes a must have only when it solves a real, urgent, maybe even painful problem. Or, fulfills a critical, pressing need for a very clearly defined group of people. If it
Right.
doesn't hurt to live without your solution, it's probably not a must have. You're building a feature, not a foundation.
That's such a powerful point because evaluating how critical a problem is isn't always obvious, right? To really get it, you need to ask tough questions. What's the actual magnitude of frustration this thing causes? How many people are genuinely feeling this pain, not just a theoretical market, but the real addressable one?
Right.
How much time or money does your solution actually save them? And really key, how often does this problem crop up? Is it daily, weekly,
Right.
once a year? And then you've got the outside stuff too. Market timing. What's the competition look like? Your solution ideally needs to be unique, hard to copy, maybe something the big guys, the incumbents, have just overlooked or dismissed. That's often where a startup finds its edge.
Yeah, and when you really nail it, when you hit that PMF sweet spot, it can look completely bonkers to outsiders at first, even disruptive. Like take Figma, I remember the early reactions. Design in a browser,
Yeah.
that'll never work. Total skepticism.
Right, seem crazy.
But what people missed was the deep daily pain designers felt trying to collaborate across different tools, constantly exporting static files, fighting version control nightmares. Figma solved that incredibly tedious problem, especially for teams working apart. Or think about Airbnb. That idea sounded nuts initially. Let strangers sleep in your house. Are you serious?
Yeah, totally counterintuitive.
Yet, it perfectly tackled the urgent problem travelers had, finding affordable, maybe more authentic places to stay, especially when cities were packed for events or during peak season. These ideas weren't brilliant because they were outlandish. They were brilliant because they unlocked solutions to really deep, unmet needs.
And if you trace both those examples back, like you said, PMF always seems to boil down to one core thing. You're helping people save time or effort or money. The financial success, that almost feels like a side effect, a happy consequence of actually making a difference by solving a real human problem.
Okay, so if PMF is so vital, like oxygen for a startup, why is it so incredibly difficult to actually find? What trips up so many smart founders?
Well, the main reason is deceptively simple, but it hits founders hard. When you're building something new, you, the builder, you're inherently biased. You don't actually know what people need. You think you do. You assume your baby, your creation, is a must-have.
Right, you fall in love with your own idea.
Exactly. And it leads to this classic trap. Starting with a product idea, maybe some cool tech, and then desperately trying to find a market for it. Google Glass is like the poster child for this.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Google poured tons of money into building amazing tech, super impressive stuff. But consumers just didn't need it. The value wasn't clear, the problem wasn't urgent enough, so flop. The right way, and this is really fundamental, is to flip that whole thing on its head. You start with the user. You deeply understand their problem, their unmet need. That's your mold, right? Then and only then do you design a solution that fits that mold perfectly. That's the shape. It's like build a key for a lock that already exists. Don't build a fancy lock and then run around hoping to find a key.
Yeah, it sounds so logical when you put it like that. Just solve a problem people actually have.
Nah.
Easy, right? But then you crash into the messy reality of startup life. There are just so many things pulling you off track.
Totally.
You've usually got limited time, Hardly any resources, maybe a tiny team stretched thin, and the pressure for money is immense, whether that's getting paid for proof of concepts, trying to make early sales just to survive, or if you've taken investment, that constant pressure to show growth, like now?
Constant pressure.
And that often pushes founders to make these huge bets based on gut feelings, assumptions, not solid data. Plus, let's be real, your idea. That's your baby. There's so much emotion, so much ego tied up in it. It's incredibly hard to admit maybe your initial hunch was wrong or to let go.
Navigating all of that at once makes finding PMF really, really challenging. But it's not impossible. The path there, it's really an iterative journey. It's trial and error. It's about launching something, probably failing in some way, learning from that, and then doing it again and
Yeah.
again.
So how do you actually do that effectively? How do you engage with that cycle without just, spinning your wheels endlessly?
Well, it kind of boils down to 4 steps, but think of it more like a continuous loop, not a checklist you tick off once. First, listen. Seriously, everything starts and ends with the user. Your main job is to deeply understand their struggles, their pain points, what they really need but don't have. This means talking to them a lot, not just surface-level chats, but truly listening. Not pitching your idea, not selling, just ask open questions.
Right, just absorb.
Exactly. Focus on what frustrates them. Where do they waste time or money? What actually matters in their day? And critically, don't rely on your own assumptions. You are not the user. Different people see the same problem differently. The goal here is simple. Make sure you're solving the right problem for the right market. If you skip this deep listening, you risk everything that follows.
Okay, makes sense. So once you've done that deep listening, really gotten inside their world, what's next? That's when you build, right? Step 2. But only after you've really pinpointed a meaningful problem and you have this clear, almost gut-level understanding of user needs. And the key is building quickly, isn't it? It's about experimentation, not aiming for perfection straight away.
Absolutely. You're not trying to build the final polished masterpiece on day one. The faster you can get a minimum viable solution out there, launch it, and see how people actually use it, the faster you learn and get closer to what works. Think of your product roadmap less like a fixed plan and more like a series of small, fast experiments, each one designed to test. Are we delivering immediate value? Are we solving that specific problem we identified?
Okay, build fast, learn fast.
Yeah.
Which naturally leads to third, test.
Exactly. The whole point of building fast is to get it in front of users as soon as possible. And I mean ASAP. Even when it feels barely usable, maybe you're even a bit embarrassed by it.
Yeah, that MVP stage can be rough.
It can. But don't guide them. Don't explain how it's supposed to work. Just watch. See what they do naturally, then ask specific questions. What was hard? What was confusing? Did they even see the value you thought was obvious? You learn so much from watching real behavior.
So you're looking for the friction points.
Precisely. Pay super close attention to what makes users leave, that's churn, and what stops them from getting the value, those pain points. Real, unfiltered feedback is gold. Way better than any assumption you might have.
Got it. Listen, build, test, but you said it's a loop, not a straight line. So the final step.
Fourth, iterate. This isn't a linear path at all. It's messy, it's unpredictable. You're basically going in circles. Listen, build, test, then you loop back, listen again based on what you learn, refine the build, test again.
Yeah.
And you just keep going. Each cycle, each failure, each little win, it nudges you closer to product market fit. It's about embracing that continuous learning, that adaptation.
So it's a journey, not a destination you reach quickly.
Definitely. And that messiness, that nonlinear path, is exactly where so many startups get tripped up. Even with the best intentions, how do teams typically get lost on this PMF journey?
Oh, there are so many ways to get lost when you're nowhere near PMF. One of the biggest traps is focusing too much on the solution itself. Focusing on the cool tech, what you think is clever, instead of being obsessed with the actual problem users need solving.
Yeah, the solution looking for a problem syndrome.
Exactly. Another huge one is just ignoring user feedback, either not collecting it properly, or worse, hearing it but dismissing it because it doesn't fit your grand vision. Often that's just pride or ego getting in the way.
Dangerous.
If your website or your pitch leaves people confused, scratching their heads, that's a massive red flag. Your value proposition isn't clear, you're not there yet. Also, chasing every shiny object, every potential opportunity, just dilutes your focus. And trying to cram in too many features, hoping something will stick, that just leads to a bloated, confusing product with no real core value.
Yeah, those are all signs you're flailing. But maybe the most dangerous time is actually when founders think they have PMF, but they really don't.
The false positive.
Exactly. It often looks like this. You've got a few great early customer stories, maybe some buzz, initial interest seems high, but then you try to scale up and you just hit a wall. Growth stalls.
Why does that happen?
Because those early wins weren't truly repeatable, you probably haven't nailed down your ideal customer profile, your ICP, that super specific picture of who your best, most successful, repeatable customer actually is. So every sale feels like starting from scratch. It's custom work, not a scalable process. Your roadmap becomes totally reactive, just chasing the demands of the last customer who signed up, instead of being strategic.
So you're delivering value, but inconsistently.
Right. Interest is not the same as repeatability. PMF means you're delivering consistent value again and again under the same conditions, selling the same solution to the same kind of customer in a predictable, scalable way. That's the goal.
And here's another kicker. Even if you do find PMF, manage to achieve that repeatability, it's not forever, is it?
No, absolutely not. That's a crucial point. Markets change constantly. Customer needs evolve. New competitors pop up, maybe with a smarter mousetrap. Legislation can shift the entire landscape overnight. The problem you originally solved might become less relevant, or someone else solves it better. If you stop listening, stop adapting just because you found some initial success, your PMF will slowly or maybe quickly erode.
Which is where pivoting comes in.
Exactly. Pivoting might mean changing who your target user is or completely redefining your core value proposition. It becomes essential when, say, customer perception shifts dramatically, or a competitor just completely changes the game, or maybe big market dynamics change regulations, the economy, or even just expanding into new regions or industries where your old model doesn't quite fit.
And why do startups often fail to make that pivot when they need to?
Often it's because they ignore the signals. They don't listen to customers anymore. Or they become too attached, too rigid about their original idea. They refuse to let go, even when the writing's on the wall. It's tough emotionally.
Okay, so after navigating all these challenges, the biases, the pitfalls, the potential need to pivot,
Yeah. How do you really know? When can you confidently say, okay, we've hit PMF? What does that actually feel like? It's surprisingly simple, actually. The clearest sign? Your customers just keep coming back for more. They stick.
retention is key.
Totally. And it means you're consistently solving the same problem for the same kind of customer you've got that ICP nailed down using the same solution, your product or service, and sold in the same way, a repeatable business model. It just works. Again and again, you can take your best customer success story and replicate it over and over. Yeah, the signals become pretty clear then. Customers get it almost immediately. They understand the value, they convert relatively easily. And, like you said, crucially, they stick around. Turn drops. You find you're not desperately chasing every lead anymore. Leads start coming to you, word of mouth picks up, and your product roadmap suddenly feels focused, strategic, not scattered and reactive.
That sounds like a good place to be.
It is. And that clarity, that focus, it brings us to the absolutely critical role of relentless focus itself. There's this concept, the double diamond framework in innovation. It talks about two modes.
Divergence and convergence. Right?
Exactly. Divergence is when you're exploring, understanding user problems broadly, experimenting with lots of potential solutions. Then there's convergence, where you frame that core problem and narrow down ruthlessly to the solutions that actually work.
And the convergence part, the narrowing down, that's really hard.
No way.
Especially without enough real customer feedback, it's tough to know what to bet on, what to focus on.
It is hard, but you know it's often even harder.
With it.
It's what comes after you've converged, after you've made the right decision and found something that works. That's when the real test of focus begins. Because true focus means accepting what not to do. It means letting go of all those other possibilities, even the tempting ones.
The pain of saying no.
Precisely. Focus is painful because it requires letting go. Turning down customers or deals that don't quite fit your perfect ICP. That feels risky, counterintuitive. Saying no to potential revenue, especially when you've got bills to pay, salaries to meet, that's incredibly difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But here's the thing. Trying to be everything to everyone, serving too many types of customers, solving too many different problems, using too many sales channels, it makes it almost impossible to build that scalable, repeatable business with strong PMF. You dilute your efforts, confuse your message, and drastically reduce your chances of real, sustainable success. It's that classic paradox. Sometimes less really is more, especially when you're trying to solidify PMF.
So wrapping this up, if there's one big takeaway from this deep dive, maybe it's this. Reaching product market fit isn't really about doing more or being the smartest person in the room or even just working the hardest. It's about doing what truly matters. It's about that relentless focus on building what actually matters to your customers, to your users.
Yeah.
And if you commit to that, everything else, the growth, the impact, even the financial success, it tends to flow from getting that fundamental alignment right.
Well said. And maybe a final thought to leave you with, thinking about that idea that PMF isn't permanent. Given that markets are always changing, always shifting, what mechanisms or maybe what mindset shifts can you build into your own process, into your company? How can you ensure you keep listening, keep adapting, even when things feel like they're going well, when success feels kind of assured? How do you avoid becoming the next cautionary tale, the next brilliant solution that nobody actually needed?